Now, what if the destiny of nations was not shaped only by human ambition, but written long before they ever existed, before borders were drawn, before rulers claimed power, before civilizations rose and called themselves permanent, when in reality they were stepping into roles that had already been prepared? Before identity, before language divided people into groups, before maps defined territory, there were empires rising from nothing into dominance, expanding with force, shaping the world around them, believing in their permanence, convinced that their power would never fade. Yet history has shown that no empire remains untouched by time, no structure stands forever, no system escapes transformation. And yet among all these empires some stand apart, not because of their strength alone, but because of their placement, because of how they appear within a larger narrative that stretches beyond ordinary understanding. From the shifting dust of time, one name begins to take form with clarity and weight, emerging not as a random power, but as something positioned, something introduced with purpose. Persia, a kingdom remembered not only for conquest, but for its role within something deeper, something that connects history with prophecy, action with intention. Persia is not presented as an accident of history. It appears as though it was always meant to rise, always meant to occupy a specific place within the unfolding sequence of events. Ancient writings reveal this with precision, not mentioning it casually but deliberately, placing it within visions, within descriptions that go beyond simple storytelling, or revealing images that carry meaning across generations. A vision appears, clear yet symbolic, a ram standing in open space, powerful, unmoving at first, then advancing with unstoppable force, moving in every direction without resistance, pushing forward with certainty, as if nothing can stand against it, and the interpretation leaves no room for confusion. This is the Medo-Persian Empire, rising exactly as it was seen, expanding not through chaos but through design. This expansion is not random, not uncontrolled, but structured, measured, unfolding in a sequence that feels almost predetermined. Cities fall, territories merge, influence spreads outward like ripples, each movement aligning with something greater than the empire itself. Because in prophecy, empires do not simply rise on their own strength. They are allowed, they are positioned, they are used, their power serving a purpose beyond their own understanding. And then something even more precise emerges, something that shifts the perspective entirely, because this time there is no symbol, no vision to interpret, no imagery to decode, only a name spoken before the man exists, before he rises, before history records him. Cyrus identified in advance, not as an enemy, not as a destroyer, but as an instrument, a ruler who would step into a role already defined. This introduces a level of intention that cannot be ignored, because it suggests that certain events are not merely reactions but fulfillments, not accidents, but alignments. Under his rule, something unexpected happens, something that breaks the pattern of conquest and domination. Instead of destruction, there is restoration. Instead of erasure, there is permission. People who were displaced begin to return. Cities that were broken begin to rise again. Structures are rebuilt. Foundations are restored. And this does not happen through rebellion or resistance, but through allowance, through a system that permits rebuilding rather than suppressing it. Persia becomes something complex, something that cannot be easily categorized, not purely destructive, not purely benevolent, but positioned strategic, functioning within a role that blends power with restraint. This kind of authority is different. It does not rely solely on force. It creates stability. It allows diversity. It holds together different cultures, languages, and traditions without collapsing under their differences, forming a system that is both controlled and flexible at the same time. And this makes Persia stand out among empires because it represents a different expression of power, one that does not simply conquer and erase, but governs and sustains. But the pattern does not stop in one moment. It continues, because prophecy is not fixed in a single point in time. It moves, it unfolds, it reveals connections that stretch across generations. And as the tone begins to shift, as the atmosphere becomes heavier, another vision starts to form, one that points forward instead of backward, showing not what has already happened, but what is still to come. Nations appear again, gathering, aligning, forming connections that were not visible before. And within this unfolding picture, the name Persia appears once more, not as a memory, not as something left behind in history, but as an active presence within a future that has not yet fully revealed itself. This raises questions that do not have simple answers, because the meaning is debated, interpretations differ, perspectives vary, yet the consistency of its appearance cannot be ignored. It remains part of the narrative, part of the pattern, part of the sequence that continues to unfold. To understand this, it becomes necessary to understand Persia not just as an empire, but as a system, as a structure of order rather than chaos, a design of governance that allowed multiple identities to exist within one framework, maintaining stability where fragmentation would normally occur. This was not accidental, it was intentional, a balance between authority and flexibility, a model of control that did not rely entirely on force, but on structure, on organization, and on the ability to sustain what it governed. This complexity makes Persia difficult to define in simple terms because it does not fit neatly into the categories of history. It is neither entirely destructive nor entirely peaceful, neither entirely dominant nor entirely passive. It exists in between, carrying characteristics that make it both powerful and restrained at the same time. Time continues to move forward, and as it does, the familiar pattern repeats. Empires rise, expand, influence, and eventually fall. Babylon fades into history, Persia shifts and transforms, Greece rises with speed and intensity, Rome expands with overwhelming force, each following the same cycle, each believing in its permanence, each eventually facing its limits. Yet Persia does not completely disappear. It does not vanish entirely like others. Instead, it remains, its form changes, its identity evolves, but its presence continues through time. The land still exists, now known as Iran, carrying within it the echoes of what once was, its mountains unchanged, its cities alive, its culture continuing, proving that while names may change, essence does not simply disappear. Geography holds memory, and history leaves traces that cannot be fully erased. And now, as the past and present begin to align, as ancient writings intersect with modern reality, as patterns begin to reappear in ways that feel familiar yet unresolved, the question becomes impossible to ignore. Not just a question of history, but of continuity. Is the role of Persia complete, or is it still unfolding? moving forward within a sequence that has not yet reached its end.